This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And you might be asking yourself, if you're a reoccurring watcher of the podcast, like, guys, you were wearing this same outfit about 3 weeks ago.
You had to really be paying attention to notice that.
Do you guys do laundry? And if you did pay attention that far, because there's been 2 previews in between this, we, during these previews, kind of packaged them together. So we're doing 2 in 1 day. That's why you may notice some of the other previews we have the same clothes on. But this one, Mark, we're talking about the NFC East. Sometimes it's the NFC Least. Other times it's the NFC Beast. We'll see what we get this year. Because, looking at last year, the Giants we'll get to have some questions. The Redskins have some quarterback questions. Philly signed their quarterback to an extension, and then Dallas, will they have to pay their quarterback to an extension? But before we get into it, make sure to check us out, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That's how you help support us, either at the bronze, the silver, or the gold tier, the lowest one being that dollar tier, which you get access to our Discord server and can talk to, like, us, Jake, Soapy, I think it's Bito Villarreal, Retro. You can talk to all the patrons in that Discord. Pat Hill, also another one. But Mark, let's jump into it. How we usually do these is we start with the worst. We go to first. So we'll go Giants, Redskins, Eagles, and Cowboys. And let's start with them New York Football Giants. Last year, the Giants 17th in offensive points per game, 356 yards. Yards per game. Points per game, they were 16th, 23.1 points per game. Defensively, they were 24th in yards per game, 371, and they were 23rd in points per game, 25.8. I think I said points per game for both of them, but one was yards per game. You guys understood that. But the Giants, the biggest question I need to ask you, Mark, is give or take what week does Daniel Jones take over the starting spot from Eli? Go.
It's really tough because I don't really think that Daniel Jones does.
You're like, I don't want him to. Let me correct that.
I mean, Eli Manning last year, he didn't do that badly. You know, you look at him last year, 66%, 4,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Mm-hmm. That's actually good. Like, Eli Manning was not the problem with the New York Giants last year.
But are they pushing him out the door, Mark?
I think they are.
In a contract
But the
year.
thing about Daniel Jones is, like, he's not ready. He was nowhere near ready. I think they're trying to do the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes type of treatment.
You're telling me that working with Cutcliffe, the Manning progressor, the Manning guy, is not going to be enough to get him ready this year?
Right? I want to know how many times it just comes up to Eli, like, yeah, you get, there's the connection. You know Daniel Jones? And you're like, who? Never heard of him.
My favorite is the fucking picture that they took of them at, not training camp, but like the OTAs this offseason, and they're literally making the same face.
Well, you got to get a guy who can make a good old Manning face. It's a part of the team.
And it's like, oh my God, they drafted the same guy that they have at their quarterback. But I mean, Eli, it's not something of, he didn't do bad last year. Like,
not at all.
In Shermer's offense, he actually really had a good year when you look at it. My question is just, I don't think Daniel Jones plays this year. I just asked that question right off the bat to kind of be a little bit of a troll. But, like, if you looked at the stats, and I didn't tell you the record of the New York Football Giants, you would be like, this is a playoff team, right? I mean, 1,000-yard rusher, quarterback over 4,000 yards, 21-11 touchdowns to INT. They had a 1,000-yard wide receiver, this close from being 2,000-yard wide receivers. And, oh yeah, that's right, they did not make the playoffs.
Not even close.
Last year.
But they were in it. That's the thing about the football Giants is we like to talk trash about them because they had a bad year and they, their coach, they had a brand new coach. They're trying to push a quarterback out the door. But you look at some of these losses and they have a lot of one-possession losses, ones that could have easily went the other way. You look at some of these games too and you can see how they're right in there. Barkley's going over 100 yards. Manning's throwing for over 300 yards or close to it. A lot of these games that they lost could have easily flipped the other way.
And the thing I forgot to say is what I usually say after I give the points per game and stuff, free agency. And this kind of leads into the position that I think is going to be key this year, wide receivers. They bring in Cody Latimer. They re-signed him. And then they bring in Golden Tate to the big 4-year deal.
Still have Sterling Shepard.
But the big thing is replacing who you traded in Odell Beckham Jr. That is 1,000 yards that you have to try to replace. And this is a team that you're bringing in Golden Tate to probably be that number one. Sterling Shepard at about just over 800 yards last year. Corey Latimer last year he only played in 6 games, had about 190 yards last year. And then also the other question, you've got Corey Coleman on this team.
Yeah.
Can Corey Coleman, after being a first-round draft pick out of Baylor, actually prove to be anything? Because it's kind of been like, we talk about journeyman quarterbacks. For wide receivers, he's kind of the one that, we drafted him, and we're going to trade you to you. We're going to trade you to you. We're going to trade you over here, where he's kind of bounced around from team to team now.
He's got to prove himself eventually. They've got a lot of stuff, and that's the confusing thing. When they traded Odell, I was not criticizing them for doing it, because to me it was, okay, they need a quarterback. Eli's basically done. They're going to start over and rebuild. But they're not really doing that, because then they went out and they got Golden Tate.
Yeah.
They made moves to re-get some other guys. They draft their quarterback, who is definitely not going to be ready this year. So you're just sitting there and you're like, I don't really know where you guys are at in your timeline right now. So that's going to be an interesting one, I think, to see, are they a team that's expecting to win a lot of games? And I don't think Shermer's going out there saying, yeah, it's fine, we'll win 3 games, whatever. He knows what it's like to lose games. He coached Cleveland. Like, he knows what that feels like. He knows what it's like to...
He knows you lose jobs.
Yeah, exactly. He knows what happens, how quickly you get fired. So he's not going to try and do that. He wants to win these games. This team does. Eli Manning's at the end of his career. He wants to have one more. He's got to prove he's better than his brother. He's got to get one more Super Bowl, right? He wants to make it happen. And this defense is still pretty good, too. And they, get a guy like Jabril Peppers, who is not amazing, but he's pretty good. I like what he can add to this team. And they draft kind of heavy into the defense side of the ball, especially with a guy like Dexter Lawrence, which is a huge pickup for this team. I don't know. I'm a little torn on the Giants because I don't think that they're like a team that's going to win a bunch of games, but I do think they should be able to win more than they won last year.
I'm saying only because I'm looking at the schedule, and so to win more than they won last year, you got to find 6 wins in first off your division, which is tough. Probably Dallas. If history usually goes, you'll split with Dallas. Even if you split with everyone, or if you sweep the Redskins, that's what, 4 wins right there, 3-4 wins. The other part of this division, this goes for everyone. The NFC North, that's to me 3 tough opponents. Well, 2 really tough opponents, 1 tougher, and then 1 kind of.
They beat the Bears last year.
And they did beat the Bears last year. That was kind of fluky.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a little bit of a special teams mistake, but still.
Then you got to play the AFC East, which, yes, not as tough. The Patriots are there, but it's like, you can't have a brain fart there. You have to beat the Dolphins, have to beat the Bills, have to beat the Jets.
Yeah, but those are winnable games, though.
And a good thing, too, is in your 2 non-games, you get the Cardinals, which are winnable. at Tampa, which is winnable. So I'll agree with you. There's a possibility that this team could have more wins than they had last year. It's just going to come down to those teams that we expect them to beat. The lower half of the AFC East. The two non-games that are like the division in Tampa Bay and Arizona. Can you get it done in those games, plus get it done in your division? Because that's a big thing. If they can't get it done in the division, then there's no way that this team is going to be a good team and will even have a better record.
Can I say it's funny to me just seeing this? This was something that was posted yesterday, an article where they're talking about, I don't know when this interview happened, but with Odell. And Odell was talking about the exit from the Giants, and his quote here is that he had to leave the New York Giants because he wasn't going to be able to reach his full potential there. I was like, yeah, but you didn't choose to leave. Like, you were sent packing.
I mean, he said he wanted a trade. He didn't know where it was going.
Yeah, but they traded him. I mean, it's not like he had the choice.
Remember at the Combine when they were like, yeah, we're not going to trade him.
Right.
We didn't re-sign Odell to trade him.
I just think it's an interesting quote in that case. But, yeah, I mean, I think they've got games that are winnable.
You got to win the breakup. That's what he's trying to do.
Right. And in this case, Eli can get you his numbers, especially he seems like he's gelling with Pat Shurmur pretty well. If Barkley's there, he's performing well. If you get a guy like Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard to step up, get that replacement for Odell. This team is not going to suddenly be a 10-win team, but they're a team that can win 7 games.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it too, like they did have close games last year.
A lot of them.
Jacksonville 5 points, Dallas 7 points. Carolina 2 points, Atlanta 3 points, Washington 7 points, Philly a 3-point loss, Indy they only lost by a point, and then Dallas again lost by 2,
lost by 1.
My math is off. They need 2 to win. But the thing is, you got to win those games then if you want to flip the script this year. And I wonder, will they be able to win them this year? Where it's like you had honestly, wide receiver talent. You had more wide receiver talent last year. Or if you're thinking, well, Odell had 1,000 yards, Ricky, but now we don't have to deal with his antics, which could help the team.
Yeah.
I would agree. Like, you can look at it that way and say, okay, I see your point. You don't have to deal with his antics anymore. I just, with me, wonder with the Giants of, is this going to be a year that they can flip the script and get back into winning ways? Because, like I said, New England, I don't see you winning at New England. At Chicago this year, and Chicago's going to want to beat you really bad because you shouldn't have beat, like, the Bears are probably thinking you shouldn't have beat us last year and it was a fluke. And honestly, the division. Is this going to be a year where the Giants are typical NFC East Division? It's like, hey, we're splitting with the Eagles and we're splitting with the Cowboys, or will it be like last year where it's like, well, we beat the Redskins, couldn't beat the other two?
Yeah, it's possible. I can kind of see the Giants doing a little bit better, though, this year. And especially, we talked about the schedule a little bit, but games like the Bills and the Bucks, and the Redskins, which are the divisional opponent, the Cardinals, the Lions, the Jets, they've got games they can win. The Dolphins, they've got winnable games here. And they were a team that beat some good teams last year. They beat Chicago. They beat Houston. They were a team that was able to win some good games. So it's interesting, and especially with Pat Shurmur, it's going to be very interesting to see how he does with a second year, to see if he can kind of step this team in the right direction. The thing they really need to be able to do is get a little bit more, and this isn't necessarily a huge criticism on Saquon, but get a little bit more consistency out of him, because there were games where he was getting held less than 50 yards. He was very boom or bust. He's either running for like 130 yards in a game or he's running for 40. And they need to be able to get more consistency out of that. And part of that's going to be the offensive line, which they've been trying to address. But that's something that they definitely need.
So is this the last thing I'll ask you is, so we're kind of thinking that this will be a year. Is this going to be Eli's last year in a Giants jersey?
I would say yeah. I would say it is.
Second question for you. Do we see him in a different jersey next year, or does he hang it up?
I think it depends on how he does.
Okay. If he has another season like last year?
A good year, I think he'll get another deal to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it might be like a Peyton Manning type of situation of he just walks into a team. Let's say Kirk Cousins really doesn't work out.
Walks into Tennessee.
Could be a Tennessee, could be Minnesota if Kirk Cousins doesn't work out. Nick Foles doesn't work out in Jacksonville, but they're still just one quarterback away. Who knows? That's probably not going to happen. But just a team where he can just walk in there and, like his brother, bring in a few of these big-name free agents to play with him, one last ride, wins a third Super Bowl.
Could you imagine if the Cowboys were like, hey, Dak, we're not going to pay you. Come on over, Eli. Like, Cowboy fans would explode.
The Cowboys are set to make Dak the highest paid quarterback of all time. And I'm not talking about all time now. I'm talking about all time ever.
Jerry going to open up them pocketbooks.
He's going to say, you know what? You own the team now. It is yours.
I can now finally rest.
Right? It's going to be huge.
But Giant fans, let us know what you guys think about your team down below in the comment section. The thing that I'm most interested to hear from you is kind of like what Mark said. I'm a little bit down on this team, although all the facts are trying to tell me that they might not be a 5-11 team. I still see this team as 5-11, 6-10. But try to convince me wrong if you agree with Mark that this team is going to be better than their 5-win total last year.